I'm going to jump ship from this salary, the highest salary I've ever had, into literally nothing. So I just thought, why not? Why not try it? I had a runway. I had no business model. I was like, okay, well, I have a product and it's kind of being used. How the hell am I going to make money from an open source product? At the moment, it's just hit over about 300k revenue. So in about 14 months, the biggest win for me is realizing that is EventCatalog. I reached sustainability, which basically means it pays for my house and my family. And I can do this thing full time in about 8 months.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of SaaS Unbound. And here with me today is Dave from EventCatalog. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Anna. Yeah, it's great to be here on the show. I'm always on the other end normally. I don't know, well, people don't know, I'm Dave. And I'm a big fan of the podcast. I've been listening for about a year now. So I messaged Anna last year saying, hey, just kudos for the podcast. I'm learning a lot from it. And now it's great to be on it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that was such a wholesome moment because I remember that was, maybe half a year ago. And that's such a cool story. I messaged all my colleagues and oh my God, guys, we're always talking about, bringing value to founders, but it's always this, kind of this big idea, and it's cool if, it helps somebody. And there you were saying, hey, you know what, it kind of helped me to take the leap and start bootstrapping, kind of going full on with my product. And I mean, after you messaged me, you started being super active on LinkedIn, and it's picking up really well. People love the story and everything. And I was like, oh my God, is it me also a little bit?
Part of the story, for sure. For sure, yeah.
Yeah. So that was really, really cool. I mean, thanks for reaching out. And I'm glad that you're now there on the other side. Because, I want to know a little more about the story, because you started bootstrapping, but before that, you worked for AWS, right? Big brand.
That's right, yeah.
A stable job. What gave, what made you do this?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. So, for those who do not know, I built EventCatalog as an open source product, right? And it was kind of built over Christmas one time, 4 years ago, actually. As everyone goes off on Christmas, I just decided, why not just to spend the time innovating on something I'm passionate about. But anyway, as you said, I was at AWS, having a good time. To be honest, I was a developer advocate. So for those who don't know what that is, it's you teach people about AWS stuff. I used to travel the world in all the different countries, all get paid for, do speaking, and it was a lovely job. So what the hell made you jump from an AWS salary into nothing, literally zero? It's a scary thing, really. But to be honest, at the time, it was kind of forced upon me. So I don't know if anyone knows that AWS, well, they actually have loads of layoffs recently. But at the time, they were doing the return to office thing, everyone has to come back to the office because we've got massive offices that need filling and we're paying for these things. So I was like, no, I don't want to, do you want to do 2-hour commute every day to this office? So half my team decided no, it wasn't for them. They went off. Some of them went off to Stripe. Some of them are still there, to be honest, at AWS. But I thought, well, what do I want to do? And I just had a conversation with a friend one day, and he was like, look, who I was working with, what is it you want to do? And I was like, well, I could go get a job here and here and here. But my passion was I'd love to bootstrap my project because people are starting to use it. Can I turn an open source product into enough money to sustain myself? And I was like, it's so scary. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to jump ship from this salary, the highest salary I've ever had, into literally nothing. So I just thought, why not? Why not try it? I had a runway of about 12 months, maybe, a supporting wife. And I was just like, look, I think I can do it. I think there's something there. I will not know. And I think I'd regret it, right? And this is the thing I'd say to anyone. I know I would regret it 5, 6 years, 10 years down the line. I think I should have tried that EventCatalog. I wonder what would have happened. So I thought, screw it. Just jump ship. And I always like the metaphor of sailing in the wind and the sea. And that's definitely how I feel. It's like you've got your little boat, you've got your sail, and it's just like you're going for it. And you have no idea what's coming. There's big waves, small waves, little islands, good fun, terrain, horrible things along the way. But so far it's been 14 months and it's been a good journey.
Awesome. Sounds good. I mean, based on what you just said about your job, you really know who you're selling to, right? You've been in the developer community for a while. So that probably helps. And I mean, to be honest, it's like what you're doing on LinkedIn now. I follow that, and I'm not a technical person. I had to AI what EventCatalog does, the old school, dumb it down for me. But how you're doing it, I think there is a ton to learn for every tech founder. So tell me why you chose LinkedIn as one of the platforms to do that, because I mean, open source, great. I feel like that adds another layer of trust and some access to the community. But why LinkedIn? Because, a lot of people say LinkedIn is crap for selling to developers. Like they're not there, or they're not there to buy.
It's good. It's a good question. I think you hit a few things there about buying and developers is a whole different thing. But LinkedIn is an interesting one. LinkedIn, to be honest, for me is the most powerful platform. I have about the same number of followers, about 12,000 on Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm not sure on Blue. I have a Blue Sky thing going on, but that's like, who's there? Although a lot of my ICP is there actually. But LinkedIn has always seemed to work, and the key is really, I've relearned this recently, is you can never lead, especially to the developers and stuff. You never lead with the product. You can't lead with the product. You got to lead with content and free content and thoughts and shares and opinions. And I think people react to that a lot better, especially on like LinkedIn. I think this is how I use AI for my business, or I just done one recently. This is the Bootstrap Diary, like just my thoughts on bootstrapping, right? And worked for me in the past, a developer advocate, as you mentioned at AWS, sharing how to do things. I wasn't selling AWS. I was just sharing my thoughts on AWS and how to use it. And you need to do the same for your product, really. For a technical founder, that's what I've learned anyway. So LinkedIn seems to be the best for that. It's just people are engaged. People are there, architects, developers. Yeah, it seems to be the best market for me, to be honest. And Twitter is like, I don't know. I say Twitter, it's X, right? I don't know what's happening there. I used to get lots of traction there, but now it's like one or two likes. Maybe my posts aren't the best. I don't know. But LinkedIn, I prefer for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Honestly, we also gave up on Twitter after some time. I also cannot bring myself to call it X. I think it's weird. But yeah, I mean, let's maybe still follow with the product. I mean, what is EventCatalog and why you decided to build that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. In simple terms, EventCatalog is a documentation tool, right, for architects and developers to give you, again, just in simple terms, some businesses are building stuff that that they break it up into 100 little things. And the question I had years ago was, well, if we're breaking up into little things, how the hell do we know what we have? How do we know how it connects? How do we know if we're breaking stuff? How do we know what exists? And the answer to that is no one knows, right? Really, no one knows. So EventCatalog just started from that. It's like, well, I think if we had a documentation tool or something that can help people understand this, I think that might help. And that's where the product started. It's an open source project, as I said, over Christmas. And it was just like, hey, I have an opinion. I have a thought. Here is the code. It's MIT license. Like, there you go. And that was it. And then people were like, hey, this is great. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Hey, I'm using it. And the story from there really is I went to AWS literally about 3 months after that. And I was going to these conferences, you imagine these massive enterprises and things. And people would come up to me afterwards and be like, hey, what's happening to EventCatalog? We're using it. I'm like, whoa, what do you mean you're using it? That's really cool. And I say, look, nothing's happening. It's an idea, it's a thought. If you want to fork it, if you want to write your own stuff, go for it. And that's kind of how the story started, really. It's just solving a problem. It was my own problem. And I was like, this is chaos. Let's just make it not chaotic, simplify it. And that's where it was born, really. It's just out of an idea, innovation, and open source,
Yeah. So when did you decide that, okay, I'm going to make this into a business? And you did that's an interesting part for me also, because you didn't go SaaS. You didn't say, okay, I'm going to just take, I don't know, a few $100. I'm not even sure how much this product costs. But I'm going to sell self-hosted licenses.
For sure, yeah. At the start, it was a bit of a weird one. If I go back now and lessons learned, I definitely wouldn't do this. But at the start, I thought I'd just jump ship. And I jumped ship. I had no business model. I was like, okay, well, I have a product and it's kind of being used. I can kind of see the people using it. How the hell am I going to make money from an open source product? That's where the research starts. That's where the podcast starts, listening to your podcast and things like this. Open core is a thing, apparently. Sure, charging people licenses. But the natural thing is, you mentioned about SaaS, is the natural thing, and loads of people recommended me this, right, is just build it as SaaS, right, and sell and let people pay for you monthly, and you own the infrastructure and you host it, all this stuff. And I was like, cool, okay, there's a lot of work there. But on the other side of all that, especially as a solo bootstrapper, okay, so I have to host it. I've got data compliance laws now. I have SLAs now. I have all sorts of things, right? Because I want to get $100, $200 a month from someone, and I got all the stress. So how can you simplify it? Well, number one, will people pay for the product? That's something you got to understand and test. Number two, what's the simple way to get there? Is like, okay, well, here's a license key. Here is something I can give you for the product. And the way EventCatalog works is just an open core thing. So most of it's for free. If you want these extra bits, you got to pay for them. And the way it works is it just goes to a simple server and just says, okay, have I got a license key? Yes or no. And that's it. So, and that seems to have worked so far. At the moment, it's just hit over about 300K revenue. So in about 14 months, most of that's come from since June 25 to now, which is February 26. And to be honest, most of my customers prefer that. They prefer owning data. They prefer self-hosting. They prefer all of that stuff. And for procurement processes, for like solo people like me, like when people ask me, tell me your, security processes, tell me your data compliance stuff, it's so easy to answer because it's like, I don't own your data. I don't see your data. I don't know what you're doing. All I have is this thing, this license key. And once they understand that, it's like, well, okay, let's just get you through and sign on. So I'd recommend, anyone listening, you don't fall into the trap of, it has to be a SaaS. It has to do this. It has to do that. There's so many other ways to get there. And what I find when I listen to stories from other founders is you always hear the post million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million ARR stories, but that 0 to 300 where I'm at, or that little gap there. So you can get quite far, I think, just setting a license key, keeping it simple. Would it be a SaaS one day? Maybe, probably, I don't know. Really depends on the users and what they want. So that seems to work so far.
Yeah, makes sense. And since you're solo, and I mean you already told me that, but you are building a lot with AI, right? There is a lot of code that's been written with AI. And I think one of your latest posts on LinkedIn was quoting Julian from Mergify.
Yeah.
He was also on the podcast here.
Yes,
and I was like,
it's
such a coincidence. And you supported, his claim about the fact that, developers are actually relieved that they don't have to type their code anymore. They don't have to really own everything. And, it's just tell me what you personally think about the implications maybe, because don't get me wrong, I love AI, all the little projects, I love to tinker with it. But one thought that's always there with me, I built something that I know nothing about, and obviously if you're a developer, you own this thing to a better extent. But what is that extent? How much are you still letting go?
Yeah, sure. It's an interesting one, right? And there's very mixed feelings in the developer community. You see this everywhere. I think every community, every touch point, the whole the big thing at the moment, right? SaaS is dead, words going around and the market, whatever. But yeah, I think the key is, and I read this from a few people I follow, and I believe this is the critical thinking part is you can't give up. right? And I'm building stuff at the moment. I haven't, on LinkedIn, Julian said about not writing code since January, right? I mean, it's 2 months. But I haven't either. I don't really write code anymore. I spent 20 years writing code. But it doesn't mean I don't understand it. I still orchestrate. I still research. We still plan. I still review. We still test. I read the tests. I still have that shared understanding. And I think, as I said, it's the critical thinking part is the key, not to give up. Not just to say, hey, I want this, go do it, and not understand how any of it works. But more of, hey, I'm thinking about this. Let's iterate, interview me. Let's make a plan together. Let's talk about this. Let's get some ideas down. And then the next stage is like, okay, well, now we've got the plan. Let's just do small bits at a time so I can review it at a time and make sure we're not going off on one. Because you can just try one prompt, a whole new feature set, which is a whole different category. But the key really for me is figuring out your workflows and then tailoring it around these workflows has really worked for me. Like I'll give you an example, we write code together and then I have to update my docs. I have to update my change logs. I have to update my website and all this kind of stuff. And this stuff is like manual. It takes a lot of time, but now I have agents. I've written agents to do that for me. So when I do /ship, it will package up my pull request. It will open up, put it into my product. It will write it up. It will update my docs, update my website. And then I can kind of just orchestrate and review all of this. If it goes off steer, then I kind of update my agent to not do that in the future and this kind of stuff. And it just really, really works well. But as I said, the critical thinking is the key. And I just got a note down here too about something is like even podcasts and even when you interview customers, right? A lot of people use like AI notes. Like, okay, I'm going to use this AI thing, write AI notes, and we're going to magically do whatever else comes out of your customer things. But I still don't do that. And I still like the critical thinking part of it. Like I'm talking to a user or customer, they're telling me about the problems. I need to really understand that and feel that before I go and lean into AI to help me with the next part. So there are things I purposely just don't touch AI with. And I think it's more on the product side, to be honest, and the roadmap and the strategy than it is the development stuff. The development stuff is like, well, I could write tests myself. I've been writing them for 20 years. I know what good test looks like, or I could just review what you're giving me. I prefer to do that.
Okay. How do you deal with hallucinations? Because my partner is a developer and it's like every day there's at least one point during the day when he sets his computer on fire and he's like, it just doesn't want to do what I want to do. So how do you deal with that?
Yes, that's a good question, isn't it? I think it's just, I try and do, as I mentioned earlier, the small bite-sized ones. Whereas, okay, well, we have this feature thing. Like at the moment, it's crazy. I'm writing a new kind of programming language for my product, it's just something I wanted to try. But that's huge. And it's like, okay, I have no idea how I'm doing this, what I'm doing. So we research, we break things down. I don't want to get to the end product now. I just want to get something working in my browser. Like this thing, I want to get working, and then I want to learn how this is working. So I think the bite-sized things work really well. The hallucination stuff, to be honest, for me, it tends to happen less and less. At the start, a year ago, it was happening all the time. Like an AI LLM would make up an API. Hey, I'll go get the feed off LinkedIn. Here is an API. It doesn't exist. And you're like, well, what the hell? Where have you got this from? These days, it tends to be getting better and better with the better models. I use Claude Code and 4.6 at the moment. They just released. I don't have too much problems, but you get to the depths of it and people, slate Claude Code, people like Codex and all this kind of stuff. For me, I'm just like, look, is it providing value? Yes. Is it saving me time? Yes. Can I move faster? Yes. Perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, you mentioned that there have been quite a few learnings that you really thought were important for your stage where you were building, right? And I wonder what they are, because we also had an interesting conversation with another founder here on the podcast who said, maybe, just an idea, you should mention MRR or ARR, not for, potential acquirers, not for investors, but for people who are listening, because then when I listen to it, I know exactly if what this founder is saying applicable for my stage or not. And I mean, you can argue with that, but what were the learnings that helped you?
Yeah, especially around that stuff. I think to be honest, I'm a big believer in like building in public and learning in public. I've done it like for years and years and years. You kind of find your people and you find your little communities, right? Of like, hey, I'm doing the same, or I found loads of people doing this. And one thing I was thinking about recently is like, do I share my ARR and what that looks like for my customers? Would they look at me and think, hang on, he's only a little dude, in his bedroom, that kind of thing. But to be honest, I think I don't know. I just prefer being open about it, and I think you build, especially it depends on your market, I guess. My market is developers. I think it builds trust. I don't care. I don't care if people think it's small or big or whatever. And I think it's just a thing. I personally I would recommend it. It's not for everyone, being an open book, but when I read people's stories and they're open about their ARR, MMR, and their lessons and they learn and the pains and the highs and the lows, that's who I resonate with. So why not do the same for people that will come that are looking to do the same, right? So I think in terms of that, being open is fine, and I don't think it's backlashed at all. But I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to measure that, right? It's like, hey, if I didn't do that, I would have like 10 more customers. Wow. But there are loads of lessons, from all sorts of things. One lesson stuck out for me, advice I got recently was about pricing. About pricing for developers is pricing in general is an interesting one. I know you spoke about this on your podcast a lot. I'm definitely not a product person. I've learned to respect product a lot more during these 14 months. But pricing is an interesting one, and especially for developers, is us. I am a developer. I'm sensitive to pricing. If you tell me that your product is going to cost me $40 a month or $30 a month, I'm like, wow, I can't do that. I'll go and spend that in a Costa or whatever, or for a Starbucks, sure. But your product, I'm not sure. But the interesting thing about develop, and this advice I got, and again, like listening to your stuff, is these people aren't often the purchaser. Right. And there's a big disconnect between the developers using the product and the people purchasing the product. And when you go to people purchasing the product and the stuff they're purchasing and software they're purchasing, they're spending thousands and thousands and thousands. Right. And it's just these little things. So when you price your product, you think, hey, I'm going to price EventCatalog. I originally priced it at like, I can't remember, like $600 for like a license for one of them, because I was so sensitive myself. But since then, I've kind of raised it twice. I've raised price twice, trying to get that 20% kind of fall off thing that people talk about. Your pricing, if everyone's saying yes, then it's too low. If you want that 20-30%, that's what I read anyway, so that's what I try. But there are tons of lessons. I could talk all day about lessons, but I think personally, sharing your stuff, being open, it's working for me anyway. And I don't know. I just do it just to help out, to be honest, to be honest. I don't really do it for any product related stuff. I just think people are interested in that stuff and looking for it, hopefully. And I know some of them are because they've already reached out.
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, whenever I talk to a technical founder who also has some of the marketing skills and is actually open to talk about what they're building, they're getting to some substantial ARR a bit faster, just because, like you said, it probably builds trust, and with the stories and kind of sharing all this stuff, it gets you in the community a bit faster and gets you kind of recognized for what you're going through, not necessarily what your product does.
I think so. Yeah, I think I think everyone loves stories, right? It's like when you go and speak on a stage, you start with a story. The talk is the story. If the talk is the product, like, go away. I'm not interested. And I've fallen into the trap recently of all of that. Is with AI, I can release features. I'm unlocked. I can release a feature every day. I spoke about this on my blog post recently. It's about like having a heartbeat of like, it's too fast. It's just too fast. Your customers can't catch up. But having a regular heartbeat of stuff can help. But I fell into the trap of once a week sharing, or once a day, or once every 2 days, sharing a product update. Hey, EventCatalog does this. Hey, EventCatalog does this. And it's like, it's so easy to fall into that trap of like, but for taking a step back and say, number one, why does it help me? But two is like, don't focus on product content. I think it's when I think about it now, it is a kind of a bit of a cliche. And I read something recently, I can't remember what it was, about content frameworks, and about like 20 to 30% of your content should be about the product, but the rest of it should just be like general stuff. And that's what I'm trying to steer back to now as my advocacy kind of roots, where it's like, look, I operate in this problem space. It is a problem. I so happen to have something to help you, which is open source. But if you're interested in this problem, like, here are my thoughts. Here are some resources. Like even bootstrapping, I'm going into that kind of content at the moment because I'm going through it. So why not write about it, and why not share about it and just shout in the void about it? Because some people would be interested. So I think, yeah, I can't remember what the question was now, but I think just being careful with the content and stuff like that.
That's okay. How are you using AI for content, I wonder?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So so a couple of years ago, I wrote something called EDA visuals, which is like this sketches of technical content that I was learning. So I'm using something called the Zettelkasten method. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's like a method of like, you read a blog post and you write it in your own words, and then you link notes together, right? And you create this kind of thinking, these patterns. And then what I did years ago was take that and turn it into blog posts and into a book, actually, that people could download for free. That worked very, very well. AI content, I don't typically tend to write too much content at the moment, just mainly LinkedIn blog posts. But I started something recently, which was Bootstrapper's Diary, right? It's just an idea I had. I want to share some stuff. A similar kind of thought, which is like, it'd be very visual, it'd be very raw, it'd be very just my thoughts and my learnings, and people can take away. Now, I don't want AI to write the blog post as such, but I want AI to manage everything of that. I don't want to spend any of my time updating visuals and whatever else, but I want my value to come across. So what I did recently is I took my other book, I gave it to AI. I said, number one, understand the tone of my writing style and write me a plan on the writing style. Number two is, when I create a new entry into this diary, I want you to interview me, 10 questions at least, right? I want you to be thorough and I want you to understand me. Okay, that's that one. Number three is, I want you to create a visual for me. So you're going to use this software and you're going to visualize everything I spoke about. You're going to add it to this blog post. Okay, job done. And then now what I do is, when I'm on a dog walk or I'm thinking about something, or something comes up to me, or I write a note on my phone, create a quick visual about it, and I come to my laptop, create a new visual, create a new note in my diary, and it's going to be about pricing strategies, bootstrap pricing for developers. Okay, sure. 10 questions, boom, 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 boom. Okay, so it gets the context and then creates the image, creates the open graph image, does all the SEO stuff for me, publishes it on there. I tweak a few things and I publish it, and that's it. So that's how I'm using AI at the moment. Is like, not just to say, hey, write me a blog post on pricing. It's more like, interview me. You have my tone, my language, my voice. Interview me, find out things about me, and then write the content. And this so far seems to work. I quite like reading it, to be honest. So yeah, it's that kind of thing.
That's great. Honestly, I mean, I love the idea. I think it's super important to still preserve yourself in your writing, and your tone. And because, I don't know, I mean, I had this idea of just giving AI an opportunity to populate our blog with thousands of different blog pieces. And I thought, yeah, it will be so easy, because I mean, honestly, there are people who know way more about M&A than I do. I mean, let's be honest, I'm no expert. And yeah, why not just take that? But then I thought, oh my God, like, I tried it and it was absolute crap. And then, I started thinking like how I can do this. And it was a very similar idea, only, I already have all the interviews. I have almost 300 episodes of this podcast where, the interview is done. So I fed all that to LLM. And now I'm kind of doing the same, although I also created this prompt that is 16 pages long, where it's like all the all the guardrails you can imagine are there, but it works now, and I'm fairly happy with what it gives me. But I mean, again, in no way this is going to the blog as is, because I think you still should be that final person to send that pull request.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly that. You know, it's about fine tuning to your workflow, isn't it? And your voice and your process. And if doing it out of the box it feels like anyone can do that. And to be honest, when you read AI generated stuff, like if you scroll through LinkedIn now and you see like an AI generated image, it's kind of like my mind just kind of goes past it, right? It's just like, okay, you know, there's a slide here, there's a presentation here, it's all AI generated, whatever. There's no creativity spark to it. But I think, as you said, exactly what I'm doing is you put your workflow and your essence into it, into prompts and things like that. I think what you get out of it is probably almost exactly what you would do anyway. It's just saved you all the time of doing it. And as you said, if you review it at the end, I think there's no harm in that. The problem is, I don't know how it's going to end up with the SEO stuff and people that are churning out the slop and trying to get ranked on Google. And there's this whole who uses Google anymore. You've got like ads coming to chat. You've got chat, you know, LLMs recommending your product. There's a whole new strategy, I guess, for SEO. And I have no idea, as I said earlier, I'm not a product person, but I imagine we're going to see a lot of this stuff coming up more and more.
Yeah. I was talking to a founder of an SEO tool, and I asked him, okay, so what are we doing here? Like, if I actually decide to do that and write 1,000 or give AI a task to write me 1,000 pages for South Group website, when do I expect for it to all go to hell? And he's like, okay, well, let's be honest, right? Let's remember, I don't know, 2013, when we all could win Google overnight, right? And we could create a gazillion backlinks that didn't make any sense, but they worked, right? So that's a hack now. I mean, use it. Maybe you're punished, maybe you're not, you know, but if that helps you now, and I thought, okay, I mean, if somebody who's like an expert in SEO is saying that, maybe it's a working strategy, but I just cannot bring myself to, you know, publish something that looks like that on, you know, something that I care about.
Exactly. And it's also like brand image, isn't it? And everything else. And if you all of a sudden churning out thousands of blog posts a week, as I said earlier about the heartbeat stuff, it's similar stuff. It's like, how often can you share on LinkedIn or your socials or your customers or even on your website? That's here is another thing. Here is another thing. Here is another thing. I think a constant heartbeat and turning up and adding value is the key. I personally think, but people are doing this. Maybe they are winning. Maybe they will hit gazillion ARR doing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I have just one more question regarding AI. I'm sorry. It's just the hot topic. I mean, everyone's talking about that. And again, it's something really close to home. And I think a lot of people are struggling with that because we're all there. We're all in fear of missing out. So, you know, with AI, I mean, it's possible. It's possible to write 1,000 blog posts overnight. It's possible to create a side project, a landing page, a game. I don't know, you name it. But, you know, how to be focused. Like, again, you told me yourself, right, the last time we spoke, that now you have so much time and you can do whatever you want. Like, how do you still, you know, keep focused and make sure that it's not just fun and games and experiments, but it's doing something for the business?
Yeah, this is the challenge. I thought about this a lot recently. Just give, you know, some people some context. Last year, EventCatalog was kind of growing, and I get more customers, more users, and things started to become bottlenecks. Right, I started to become bottleneck in terms of sales and contracts, whatever else, and the tooling and the features and everything else. So I was thinking to myself, hey, if I reach 20K or 30K MMR, can I hire someone? Sure. And all the books say, hire when you get the bottleneck. Sure, great. That'd be an awesome step. But recently, since January, to be honest, very recent, 2 months, I felt the bottleneck disappear and the pressure disappear. And that's mainly because I'm adding AI into my workflows more and more and more. I thought about this a lot recently, is that bottleneck stuff is the feature development has become so cheap that I can just release any kind of feature, but it doesn't mean necessarily we should release features. And I was listening to something recently about simplicity and developers and product, and how developers, we crave simplicity. So when we find a product that solves our problems, we love it. When it becomes bloated, we hate it. And with AI, you are going to bloat the hell out of your product easily because that feature that should have taken a month now takes a day or a week or a couple of days. Why not add it? Why not add it? So I think my gut feel is what I'm seeing too is my focus has to shift on product for sure, and roadmaps and strategy. And the only way I think you can really do a lot of that is like you do 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I think will never change is talk to the customers and the users and find the pain points and making sure you're not bloating, making sure if someone says to you, oh, it'd be cool if we could do this, it doesn't necessarily mean you do that, because it's so tempting just to do it. Is hey, we can just, I can spawn it right now. I can add that to the product in an hour and give them the wow factor, but you have bloatware and all sorts of things. So it's hard. It's hard to resist the temptation. I fall and trapped to it all the time. But now I'm aware of it. I try and take a step back and say, okay, well, we have to aim for simplicity and, and keep the North Star in our head, what the hell this product is trying to do, not what it can become. Because with AI, as I said, it can do everything. It can do everything. Now, my product can turn into a documentation tool for hospitals. Sure, why not? Let's go there. Or we could add this feature, or let's add this AI feature, or whatever, and it just doesn't make sense. So I think, I think talking about AI, I think it's great. I think we're going to see, my gut feel is we're going to see a lot more bootstrappers, a lot more smaller teams doing a hell of a lot more stuff. I'd love to see more bootstrappers hitting, solo entrepreneurs hitting million ARR and plus. Why not? You have an agents of people that can help you with product. You can brainstorm this, brainstorm that. I mean, it's going to break at some point, but as I said, the bottleneck, it's all about the bottleneck. It's like, that's just moved. It's got wider now. So let's fill it, but let's fill it right. And that's going to be the hard thing, I think, in the next year.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. I just have a couple more questions. The usuals. Yeah. You probably know them. Yeah. So what has been the biggest win and the biggest failure in the last 14 months?
Yeah, the biggest win. I think, to be honest, the biggest win for me personally is actually, reaching sustainability of the project. So when you start bootstrapping in VC is completely different. Some people, every person I said to, should I raise and should I get money? It was like, no. Everyone I speak to has kind of regretted it, which is weird. But the lifestyle business, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think the biggest win for me is realizing that is, look, EventCatalog, I reach sustainability, which basically means it pays for my house and my family, and I can do this thing full time in about 8 months. And that's kind of an interesting one. It's like a lifestyle change. It's like, okay, I get to do what I'm doing, which is awesome. And I'm not reaching 100,000 a month. I'm not reaching crazy numbers, to SaaS and to VC. This is all nothing. It's pocket money. If you want a lifestyle business and you want, and that kind of thing, then this is great. Fantastic. And it's kind of only going up from here. So I think that's the biggest win, is just that. It's like turning my product into a lifestyle. And I think it's achievable for a lot of people. And I hope people listening to this feel the same. And if they ever need any kind of advice or anything, feel free to reach out on any of that kind of stuff. The biggest kind of failure, I think, to be honest, the biggest failure, I thought about this a lot recently, is post-sale. So as I said, I've never done this before. And so you make a sale, your first sale, woohoo, someone will pay for something I've built, and you go and celebrate, even though it's not a lot of money. And it happens again and again and again. You think, wow, this is great. And you get into this like dopamine hit of like, hey, I'm going to do 5 sales this month, 6 sales or whatever else. And you're constantly chasing the sale. which I kind of was. I was like seeing my MMR going up, my ARR going up. And now I'm in my first year of renewals. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this customer's going to renew soon. And I think, I've not spoken to them in 6 months, 7, 8 months. I have no idea if they're using it. And I'm like, oh my God, how do people do renewals? And then I realized about customer success stories, and I realized about post-sale catch-ups and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, I think I've screwed up here a bit, oh my God. So I think that's the kind of the biggest loss at the moment is it's not, I've caught it enough before it can become a problem. So I'm reaching out to these people now. I've added more metrics around the product so I can tell who's using it and like the power users and the companies that are not using it that have paid for it. So I'm adding these things in. But yeah, the advice people give you is it's all about retention. Your retention rates and all this kind of stuff, which is completely new to me. So I was like, oh, okay. So I have to actually retain these customers. So that's my plan this year. This year is, focus on the customers, the retention, and also the growth. Yeah.
Just yesterday, I had a podcast with somebody who's building in retention space and customer success space. So if you need an advice, I can probably introduce you.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think for sure. I think the problem is with all of this stuff is I realize a lot of people are learning on the fly, and the real connection is just learning from other people. It's like, hey, look, it's the first time I've done this. Hey, advice. Yeah. So yeah, totally.
Awesome. All right. Well, the last one is always about a hack, right? So anything that works for you, I don't know, growing, building, marketing, anything that you think other founders would love.
Yeah. Just in terms of what growing their business. Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think the obvious hack is the AI hack, isn't it? Which is fundamentally just changing everything as we know it. And you see this in the market. You see this everywhere. The biggest hack is to lean into it. I've lent into it. Someone tweeted the other day, I love this. It was like, number one, AI comes out, you go through this like mental stability, kind of, oh my God, my job's going to go. Number two is like, you realize, in 3, 4, and 5, whatever. I've definitely gone through this emotional thing with AI, especially as a developer, because you're like, hang on, if this is writing code, then am I going to get hired? Because, all the CEOs and CTOs and whatever else are looking to save money and layoffs are happening and things like this. But biggest hack is, I think, just embrace it, jump in it, work out your workflows, automate them. We can automate a load of a markdown file. I have automated everything I am doing at the moment. I'm flying from marketing, from SEO audits. I'll share a couple of links with you, Anna. You can post on your notes. I found this marketing guru on GitHub, and he has loads of skills on there about SEO audits, SEO marketing, copywriting, all this stuff. I took his copywriting skill, I applied it to my website. My website now leads with pain problems, leads with solutions afterwards, and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, I know. I think I know what you're talking about. I forgot his name.
I'm rubbish with names. Rubbish with names. I'll share a link so you can post it. But it's just things like that, right? It's like I have now his knowledge in my product helping me on my marketing page. I have no idea how to write a marketing page. Here is EventCatalog. It does this. Sign up here. Here is free picture. But now it's more like, problem led and all this kind of stuff. So I think, biggest hack, obvious hack, lean into it. But the not so obvious one is just, as you mentioned, what you're doing. Figure out your workflows, figure out which parts you can automate, keep the critical thinking, and keep going. I think, as I said, we're going to see I hope we see a huge wave of bootstrappers, smaller teams doing big changes. I'm excited for it. I haven't been this excited coding. I'm not coding, but I'm coding in about 10, 15 years. I go to bed. I struggle. I'm downstairs still tinkering because I'm still figuring out ideas and experimenting and innovating. And
yeah,
it's a wild time. It's a wild
super
time.
Exciting. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not a technical person, but even for me, this is so cool. And like the opportunities there are endless, and like how it helps in your work. It helps me even with my kid. I mean, building some small things, and then he's like, "Mom, did you do this?" Like, awesome. Such good feelings. But yeah, thanks so much for this story. And I mean, again, I really appreciate you reaching out. It made my day back then, made my week, I think. So yeah, it was really, really cool. I hope, this also brings some clarity for solo bootstrappers there. I mean, everyone is talking about what you were talking about, basically that it's so much easier now to just build something on your own and grow it and use the skills, use the AI for anything. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Anna. I appreciate the work you're doing too, and the podcast. But thanks for the invite.
Sure, absolutely. And take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. SaaS Unbound is brought to you by SaaS Group. We're a long-term home for great B2B SaaS. We buy, keep the team and brand DNA, and help with the boring stuff like hiring and finance so founders can truly focus on building great products. If you're a founder who'd like to be featured or explore an acquisition, reach out through the form on our website or email me at anna@saas.group.